All right. Welcome back. Columbus Common Council Committee of the Whole, Tuesday, November 5th, 2019. The time is now 7:53 p.m. Pat, you take the roll call.
Gray, Johnson,
Here.
Reed, Ryan, Tylen,
Here.
Travis.
Here. Meeting was noticed in accordance with state statutes and local ordinances. First thing up, I have citizen comments. Didn't see anybody signed up. Committee of the Whole. Anybody that didn't sign up wish to speak on an agenda item on this agenda? Seeing none, thank you. First up, department reports are none. Next up, number 6, committee minutes. We had recreation minutes from August 12th, HLPC special meeting minutes from October 23rd. Oh, it's not. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped ahead. Sorry, guys. Let's back up. Forget everything I just said. First thing we need to do is approve the agenda. I have some changes. Clearly, 2 meetings is too much for me, I think. I can't run both of these. All right, so first thing we're going to do on the agenda, if you guys would allow, we're going to move up number 10 to be the first one, the presentation from Civic Rec. Then we'll go we'll go number 7, 8, 9, and then we're going to move the library board up to after 9. Or I'm sorry, yeah, after 9. Everybody okay with that?
Yep. Move to approve the agenda as modified, amended.
I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as I've modified. All in favor say aye. Opposed? All right. Citizen comments. Still no comments? Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Next up, department reports, there are none. Then there are committee minutes. Recreation, August 12th. HLPC special meeting from October 23rd. Community Development Authority from June 17th, August 19th, September 16th, and October 9th. Plan Commission for August 29th and September 19th. Tourism Commission from February 27th and August 26th. Zoning Board of Appeals from January 14th. EMS from September 11th. And Police and Fire Commission from September 17th. Any comments or questions about the committee minutes? All right. First up, number 10, presentation of Civic Rec software. Find that one here. We do have a representative from Civic Rec here, Jessica Keller. All right. How you doing? All right, good. So you have a presentation for us. Go ahead and start when you're ready.
I do. I think she was going to switch it over. Okay.
Fancy.
Here we go. Okay, excellent. So, quick introduction. My name is Jessica Kaler. I'm from Civic Rec. Hopefully most of you in this room have heard of Civic Plus before through the city's website. I understand that has been a pleasant experience working with Civic Plus and having the ability to navigate the website a little bit better to see everything that Columbus has to offer. So Civic Plus as a company has a number of different software platforms that are all focused on local government. And the one that I am here to represent is Civic Rec for Parks and Recreation Management. One of the benefits of continuing to work with Civic Rec, working with Civic Plus and implementing Civic Rec as the software system for the Recreation Department is Civic Plus as a company is working very hard to integrate all of our different systems to make it not only an easy experience for staff, but more importantly, a seamless experience for the residents of this community, so that as they're navigating through and trying to figure out everything that the city has to offer, if they choose to move forward with registering for any programs, reserving pavilions, anything like that, it continues through that same seamless experience instead of having to jump around to different sites. So Civic Rec is a recreation management system. I have a number of different things listed out here that are the different components of it: registration, facility scheduling, membership, sports league management. So all of these things will be available for the residents on the online side, as well as for the staff to easily manage, as from my understanding, an easier experience for them, so that they can also focus a little bit more on increased programming and just in general better customer service, rather than having to deal with a more cumbersome software platform that they're using today. Additionally, one of the other benefits, if you've noticed from the city website, it is very mobile responsive. So any device that you're using, it easily tailors to that device. So whether it's tablets or mobile phones, the same is true for Civic Rec. If you're going online to register for programs, to look at everything that is going on within the community, it will also tailor itself to the devices that you're using. So then I also just wanted to give you a quick look at what this looks like from the public portal. So I am very fortunate. I live in Mesquite, Texas, so a little bit warmer climate than what you're dealing with up here today. But I happen to be a resident for a city that is using Civic Plus for both their website and the recreation software. So this is Mesquite's website. I go on here quite a bit to do things like paying my utility bills and also to see all of the different programs that they have to offer. So what we're looking at right now is the city website, and as they're using Civic Rec as well for their Parks and Recreation system, I can go in here to register for programs. My computer. Go in here to register for programs. I can log in, create an account. There's also things like social sign-on if somebody wants to log in with Facebook or Google rather than creating an account from scratch. And as you can see, it still looks like the rest of the website. So it's not a cumbersome experience to go in here and see everything that they have to offer. If I wanted to sign up for anything, then I could do that mostly from the online side, things like swing dancing, and they have a lot of programs going on. So as a resident, I felt like this has been a very beneficial system for me to use. Very easy to register to see everything that's going on. And prior to working with Civic Rec, I actually spent about 12 years myself working in aquatics and recreation. So coming from a background of using different platforms like this, I found that it's also very easy to use on the staff side as well. So I wanted to leave some time available for you if you had any specific questions about the software or any questions in general about Civic Plus and moving forward with this.
Thank you. Any questions? Trina?
What kind of cost would there be if another department wanted to add on to the system, like our senior center or something like that?
Mm-hmm. So as far as the costs go to add on other departments, the ongoing fees are based on the actual revenue that's processed through the system. So if you had something that people would go online and pay for bulk pickup items or a fee that's involved with that, then there could be additional costs for the annual fee for support and maintenance, because the more that you do through the software, the more payments that are processed, the more support and resources are used by Civic Plus. So the fees are based on the revenue that's processed through the system. So if you are adding departments in that are going to increase the actual payments processed through, then it will go up accordingly for that. I talked with Amy Jo earlier about the Senior Center, and my understanding is those are free programs. So if you were to add a department like the Senior Center, there would essentially be no costs involved with that, unless in the future you decided that you needed support from Civic Rec for additional training or any consulting services.
Yeah.
And so, per the agreement that we have in front of us, it's up to $250,000 a year of revenue.
Correct.
Amy Jo, we're not in danger of hitting that much money in revenue, right? I did have a question for Amy Jo and maybe you as well. When we're talking about Aquatic Center, on the Aquatic Center Advisory Board, we've discussed having membership on there. Amy Jo, is that, the membership still be done through this, or would that be separate? Because I know that when she had mentioned Facebook sign-on, now I would be more worried that you could get more duplicate accounts as opposed to how you're trying to not.
And, well, I think I understand the question as far as duplicate accounts go too. So the first answer to the question is you can certainly manage memberships through here. The process of selling them, checking people in, all of that can be done through Civic Rec. As far as duplicate accounts go, with things like Facebook, social sign-on, even creating accounts in person, I've talked quite a bit with the city of Mesquite as they're using Civic Rec, and I've also, having worked in recreation, using other software platforms. Duplicate accounts are always going to happen, sometimes by accident, sometimes purposely, as people are trying to kind of get around balances that they have due on their account while still being able to sign up for something else. So rather than trying to prevent people from easily accessing the website, there are a lot of tools built in to identify and merge duplicate accounts, and also make suggestions to both the staff and residents if they are accidentally creating a second account, to try to prevent that. So if somebody's intentionally doing it, it can still happen, but there are tools in place to identify and merge those.
So like a cross-check, you could like recognize a phone number that was used,
Email
or
address.
an email or an address itself.
Right.
Thanks. Katie?
I was just wondering, at this point, are we suggesting on using this layout for the actual city website as well, similarly how she's showing us in Mesquite, or are we just considering using this for the aquatic center and the recreation department?
My understanding is just the recreation and fun. And pavilion rentals and for anything like Parks and Rec and aquatic. And
And from the online side, the public portal, the ability to go online and see facilities that are available, even if it's not the process of making a reservation, but just seeing all of the things that the city has to offer, that is included. It's up to you whether you want to publish that out. The city is already using Civic Plus for the website, so the addition of Civic Rec's public portal is already included in the cost. It's already scoped out, so it's just a decision on your end of whether that's something that you want to advertise.
And then in addition to that, I know that our Water and Light Company currently has very minimal online payments, and there's a fee to sort of use that service, a pretty high fee. I think it's close to $6 per transaction or something of that nature. Last time I tried to do it. So I was just wondering if potentially we would reach out to them. I understand that we don't want to get our revenue way up there, but maybe it would be something that they would be interested in as well. Make it smooth and fluid.
And that's something that potentially you could manage through Civic Rec, but already being a Civic Plus customer with the website, I think that there are potentially some modules that I don't know if they've been purchased yet, such as the e-payment center. So there may be options to scope that out, not just within Civic Rec, but within the Engage website that you already have implemented as well.
Ed?
Just welcome to Wisconsin. We cooled it down just for you. Going off my prior question, so a person can't sign up for a sports league in another city, as you apparently can pay a citation elsewhere.
Yeah, I understand.
You don't have that problem.
You would not have this problem. It's only the programs and facilities that you choose to put on the website that
Right.
would be advertised.
Very good. What is the annual cost to the city by expanding and taking on Civic Rec? There's a one-time fee, if it looks like, or this year fee of $12,475. It's October of November of next year, how much is our bill for 2021?
$49.75 is the annual.
$49.75. And then this CP Pay merchant credit card processing, 3% plus 30 cents, is that per transaction?
That is correct.
So who pays that 3% and the 30 cents?
That is up to you. So it's something that just through the system that can be paid by the city. You can also pass those fees on to anybody who's paying with a credit card.
So if somebody at the swimming pool buys $10 worth of ice cream, does it either cost them $13 or, well, let's see, 3% would be 60 cents, I suppose, plus the 3% plus the 30 cents. So it would cost an additional,
90 cents. Yeah, I
it'd be
think
60
that's
cents.
not.
Or the city would do that.
That again is up to you. It's something that can be set up in the system to either be absorbed by the city and paid in that way or passed on to whoever is paying with a credit card. I find that many cities choose to pass that on because it's only a credit card transaction fee. I think that most people are used to at this point. There are many, not just software platforms, but anybody who is accepting credit cards of any form will sometimes charge a surcharge for using because credit card processors everywhere, I mean, that's their business is charging for that. So it's up to the city at that point.
So we would be paying the credit card processor plus Civic plus 3%, plus 30 cents.
Yes, that's the CP Pay is the credit card processor.
Okay, then by using a Visa card, for example, you're not paying an additional.
Correct, yes,
Okay.
it's just the 3% plus 36, so it's
Great.
not different based on the type of credit card.
All right, very good, thank you.
And Amy Jo, can you remind us what you're getting charged now for,
0.99% plus incidental transaction and processing fees.
and I understand you had issues with the previous, they might owe us the money, I think. Is that the same? No. Trina?
So I guess to add on to Ed's comment, the city would have to have a discussion about what minimum purchase could a credit card be used for. You wouldn't want someone spending $1.33 on a dollar treat each time.
Right.
I mean, that could wind up really costing the city if the city was paying
Yeah.
every dollar treat.
Yes, so that's certainly more of a city process of if you want to have minimum transactions for anything that's processed with a credit card, or if you were passing on the credit card transaction fee anytime somebody used a credit card, then you may opt into not having a minimum because they're paying it regardless. So that's certainly something that would be for the city just to decide how they want to handle credit card transactions.
Amy Jo, I have a question. Are you allowed to use a card at the concession stand now?
You do take a credit card, but I just wanted to make a statement that we do have a sign that states that any transaction with a credit card is what we do now is anything that's under $50 transaction is mandatory at cost. We are concession to buying $3 cost. Anything over $50. Take into consideration swimming lessons, memberships, and bar cruises. Mostly any concession sales.
Any more questions for Jessica? Comments? Um, how would we pay for this if we wanted to do that this year, or would we do it next year?
Yes, so I actually, Amy Jo brought this question up earlier, and she said that you have a new budget in January. So I got approval to delay the first payment to January 1st, 2020. So in order to get started, there would be no payment before January 1st, 2020 if you wanted to go ahead and move forward and get the implementation started this year.
Council, I'm looking at you guys to see what your thoughts are, if you want to move forward with this and work through the budget side of it. I know that this would have to be absorbed in the rec budget, and aquatic and potentially DPW. So there's some flexibility there. I'd be in favor of this. I think it's a great asset. It's going to be a great tool to our community. I'd be in favor of it. Katie?
And also just say that, yeah, I'm in favor of it. I think it is a bit of an investment on the front side of things, but I think it will ultimately make a lot of processes a lot easier. There's organizations for the rec, DPW eventually, and the aquatic center. Truthfully, when you look at, you balance with the credit card fees, things like that, things that we're already being charged. And just being in the aquatic center, advisory board.
Yeah.
Being on the aquatic center advisory board, just kind of hearing the day-to-day things that they go through and having to do with the software that they're currently using, the rules that it's given us. So I'm excited about this program.
Ed?
I'm in favor of moving it forward, and it also comports with one of the Baker Tilly recommendations, as I understood it.
And maybe, I don't know, I can't remember what Amy Jo said the other company might owe us, but I mean, if you consider that, it could offset some of the cost if that ever gets resolved. Like I said, I'm in favor of moving forward. Any other discussion on it? Okay. Thanks, Jessica. You can build a snowman if you stick around long enough.
Excellent. Okay, and Amy Jo has my contact information, so if you do think of any other questions, then don't hesitate to reach out.
Yeah. Thank you very much. All right, next up, number 7, update with OnTech Systems, Inc. with Keegan Bolstad. Come on up, Keegan.
Thanks for having me, guys. I would put not a quick plug for Civic, but we do have plenty of municipal clients that use a lot of their modules. They do some very, very unique things, and it is a good tool. So I don't have anything formal I want to throw up for you guys today. I know you've had a lot of stuff going on. I'm going to kind of just try to shoot through things real quick to get you some updates. So project, few updates since the packet stuff got made last week. I would deem ourselves 100% complete with server, minus one little punch list item for utility thing. Backups are running successfully. We have verification. So from the city standpoint, I would tell you guys that the project is closed. From OnTech standpoint, we still do some internal audits. We won't close it right away. We're required basically to have an engineer other than Ryan, who did the project for us, verify what he did before we allow stuff to get closed out. But in terms of city needs, we would classify that as complete. As part of the project, we had originally estimated 96 hours to complete. We came in at about 84, so we had some room for spare hours. And we took that and put that towards firewall replacements, switch replacements, and some other long-term planning facets. So firewalls were also replaced as part of the project. That's 100% complete. The benefit to the city of doing that is we found out through review you guys were, for lack of a better term, leasing your firewalls from the old IT vendor. That cost about $5,300 a year, roughly. There will be no firewall expense until the renewal comes up in 2022 for City of Columbus. So that's about a $10,000 savings over the next 2 years in terms of that spend. Switch replacements, another item that we didn't necessarily plan for, but kind of needed to happen as part of the project. Not necessarily any financial benefit right now to the City of Columbus, except for the framework that we put in for you to build upon. So phone system, other projects from a network segmentation and privacy standpoint between PD and city, all of that framework is now there. We can now just build upon it as city has needs and projects that pertain to those functions. A couple other hours or labor that was absorbed through the project. Computer setups, that was about 10 hours. I would recommend to the city, as we look at maintenance and some of those things, to create some checklists, some stuff to speed up those processes instead of it being a manual item. Miscellaneous issues, this was stuff that was kind of all over the board, from PD to senior center to just general city issues. It was about 15 hours over the last 75 days. Really what we're starting to try to do is see how much time and effort and labor do you need from an IT support standpoint. Obviously had a large investment in projects and what you have to put in now. Now it just turns into how do we maintain, how do we support that going forward. So within the packet today, you guys have a couple of different maintenance options. We don't need to make a decision on any of these today. We can come back and try one particular thing. We could look at it and just handle things time and material through end of year and pick this back up in January 1. The decision is ultimately the city's and what you guys want to do. You're under no obligation with OnTech to do any maintenance. I want to be very transparent with that. There is no obligation to work with us. If you choose a different vendor, you have access and ability to do that. Within the packet, you guys see basically some of the managed service tools and our reporting examples and what we do. I don't want to go through that individually unless you guys want me to today. More than happy to set something up to go through it. But basically within the three options, what we have is managing all devices with a recurring visit where we would be on site. We have a second option, which is a managed help desk, which is basically completely remote. Users would be able to call, chat, email, whatever way they wanted to engage with the help desk. And then the third one is, again, all devices managed, but instead of a maintenance visit, it's essentially the city would just call us when something is needed on their part, and we would be in touch with the city when a device alert triggers that we feel action needs to be taken on. There is a few quantity differences from our original quote and scope, specifically pertaining to the amount of desktop devices. So originally we estimated around 30. Through the project and some of the other departments that we've touched, we'd estimated closer to 40. Some of those, though, are walk-ups. They're very limited use computers, so that starts to turn into debate. Is it worth it to monitor and manage the device in its entirety, or do we just put antivirus on it and be done with it? That's some of the stuff that we've worked with city personnel to kind of define device by device what truly needs to be managed versus not. And then we also have a fourth server, just as we continued that PD separation. They have a completely segmented network now. So they are no longer associated, connected logically to anything with the city. So that's where you see a quantity difference there. Within that info, what that means to the city is basically how you support your investment. There is no right or wrong answer to this question. So we have municipalities that do solely time and materials. We have others that do help desk. It's really at the city's discretion. The one thing I did want to mention that's also been wrapped into maintenance is security awareness training. I don't know for sure in your packet if you have that info, but we have had several incidences where ransomware has been blocked in the last 30 days. Luckily, Trend, your existing antivirus, has caught it. So some of the tools you have in place are working. That's always good to know. What security awareness training does is allow us to simulate and phish users to basically change behavior. So we get to send them campaigns. They don't know what we're doing. And it's going to tell us who clicks on it, what they clicked on, what info they gave us. And then I can force that user to take action, whether it's to go through a training, whether they have to watch a video, or if it turns into a disciplinary thing from the city where users are doing things that they should not be on city-provided equipment. That's been wrapped in and included. There's no additional cost to City of Columbus for it. It is something I would highly encourage the city to review. The last item that we have today is email archiving and police department separation. So right now, the City of Columbus PD shares an email domain with the city. That's kind of the first segment to continue your guys' separation is the PD would get their own domain. And then we'd move their Office 365 licensing to their own tenant, basically to just continue complete separation between city and PD. Part of that process would be to implement a new email archiving solution. So DataCove, the product that's in use today, I forget the exact number, Keelan, but the pricing is going up next year. You guys, their subscription, I think, is good through March of 2020. Unfortunately, there is no good way to move from DataCove. So obviously, as part of open records requests, we need to move your historical mail. Unfortunately, like I mentioned, there's no way to basically automatically do that to a different product. You have to manually download everything in the archive and then re-upload it to the new. This does not take a technical expert to do. With city involvement under that project, we can reduce our labor. The one caveat that I have to say, and I want to make sure it's said and everybody's aware of, that person that is downloading it, technically they would have the ability to open up any email that has ever been sent on the city systems and review it. So how that gets handled within the city, if the city is comfortable with allowing a city employee to do that, it would reduce the expense on the project to City of Columbus. But at the same time, I do want that to be known that they can see it. So whether you guys want us to just do it and there's no city personnel involved with it, we will gladly take that action. But we wanted to make sure that you guys were aware that you can reduce costs with some help from city personnel. Or PD personnel, again, that would be your guys' discretion. If PD does PD stuff, city does city stuff, that would totally be something that's workable. Any questions on any of that info in terms of the email archiving?
Yes, so just curious, if we could save some money, how much money do you feel like?
I believe we anticipated, I don't actually have that. Same thing you saw with the server, the more we can combine and do at one time, the more efficient we can be with labor usage. But we quoted it to do it all independently if we had to from a budgeting standpoint. CSP transfer, your licensing has been transferred, so that is no longer in the old provider's name. There's no charge to it, it's just a billing move. There are other items within that estimate are some security things we'd like to see the city do. More so just to cut down on issues. So within that archiving, that first section is basically to reconfigure some of the security settings within Office 365. So you've had one mailbox hijack is what it's called in the last 30 days. Luckily it was a very simplistic one. It was a 15-minute fix, no big deal. Others could take a couple hours. Multi-factor, two-factor authentication basically cuts out the ability for that to happen, so we'd recommend to turn that on. There's no ongoing expense to the city, it's free. DMARC, DKIM is spoofing protection, so somebody trying to impersonate you, a city administrator. Those records are basically out on the internet and published. Again, no ongoing expense to the city, it's just a matter of getting it set up. So some of those could be taken out, they could be struck until later, they could be wrapped into maintenance, they don't have to happen right then and there, but I would highly encourage at minimum the MFA, simply because we've already seen one circumstance that it would have prevented.
Okay, and as far as you guys up here, we need more time to review these three options and further discussion, or are you guys ready to move forward with one of the options? I mean, I feel like I need more time for discussion. Trina?
Oh, I need a little more time. And I was wondering, do you still have the 24/7 help desk option available with any of the lesser expensive plans?
Yes, you could add the help desk to the help desk is just a subscription, so it's just a monthly set fee, so it's all you can eat. So if it's $25, $50, whatever that is per the user for the ad. So we do have some municipal customers where PD, dispatch, certain resources have 24/7 help desk coverage and other standard employees do not. So yes, you can kind of mix and match from those. And that's why I brought up, we don't necessarily have to make a long-term decision on maintenance today. My recommendation and kind of what I feel would be is to do maybe some time and material support, over the next maybe 30 to 60 days, see how much labor we incur, see where that's at. And then come back and say this is kind of the better route we feel. Some of the managed service tools, I'm always going to be honest, will exceed what a person can do. What we can come in and do on maintenance versus what a tool looking at something 24/7, there's obviously a difference there. But in the short term, I think that's the better way to get a pulse of where the city is.
Thank you. So we would have the option to try the services for 2 months or so, and then we could still sign up for a 2-year agreement
Yep,
for the same prices.
exactly, the same price as what's listed there. So that's part of how we're structured, is what we decide or what we start with may need to change. So we could start on a month-to-month, then move to a commitment if the city chose to, but again, by no means would we ever force the city to make it.
Okay, anything else? I'm not quite ready to pick that option yet tonight. I think we should have another look at this in another committee of the whole meeting and discuss further. Figure out when that is, when the time's right. Kaylin can, or with Kaylin and the mayor, or whatever, who's ready to tackle it. Sure. Okay. Right. Makes sense, okay.
Yeah, and then another item that Kaylin is working on from an analysis standpoint is that 5-year budgeting plan. So it is something that we have going on in the back end too, where we are building that out to make it a little bit easier for these combos, where surprises, we'll have that stuff budgeted for, accounted for, and we can always decide if we use it or not.
Okay.
You guys don't have any other questions?
Ed?
You'll continue with, like you said, we'll continue on for the next couple months. Nothing ended tonight.
No. So you guys have an active consulting agreement with us, which entitles you to engage with us for support. The biggest difference between some of the managed service options would be more monitoring and learning than what we would have. But in the short term, again, yes, we're comfortable with where we are with documentation to support the city as needed here for the next few months until we get a better idea of the launch.
Thanks, Keegan.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Okay, what's next? Thank you. And next up, number 8, we have Dave Arnott here to give us an update on the wastewater treatment plant Huber Screen project.
Good evening. So I have a quick update for you tonight. I'll keep it really short. I know it's been a long meeting and you have other items to get to. So this project at the wastewater plant started in 2015. That was our first go around at replacing the influence screen. The screen is important. It takes out rags, debris from the front of the plant so they can't accumulate and fill up tanks downstream and interfere with other processes. So in 2015, we did about 60-70% of the design, gave it to a contractor for an informal look. He came back with a much higher cost. We put the brakes on the project until we had a financing plan. And the time was right this year. We had a task order approved by the city to complete the design. So since then, we have completed the rest of the project. It was sent to DNR for approval about 3.5 weeks ago. The DNR has indicated they have received it. They have not started review yet. Probably it's going to be another 3-4 weeks before they complete their review. They have a backlog on their end. So we feel good about the project. We are ready to go to public bidding and hit the ideal time of the year for public bidding, which is from middle of December through February. And that's kind of where the project stands.
Okay. Questions for Dave on that? Yeah, it's definitely been started before I was on council. It's been all ongoing discussion. So I'm glad to see that we're getting somewhere near the finish line. Well, getting close to get to the right part where we're close to the finish line. All right. Anyway, unless there's any other questions for Dave, we'll let Dave move on to his next item, which is number 9, review the change order for the wastewater treatment plant HVAC project.
Yeah, so the city is undergoing a project at the wastewater plant to improve HVAC at the solids building in particular. This will improve staff health and safety through better ventilation And the project also includes the replacement of 2 of the original boilers from 1984 that were at the end of their service life. So this change order, there's 3 parts. The easiest part, so to speak, is the change in contract times. So substantial completion was changed from August 1st to September 9th, and readiness for final payment was shifted from August 31st until October 18th. This change order was put together back on September 26th. At that point in time, we anticipated the contractor would be ready for final payment by October 18th. They have 2 or 3 punch list items to do, and then they will be done. They have told us they will be on the site this week finishing that up. So those contract times changes were needed because of the long lead times and some of the equipment that had to be ordered. We felt that was fair to grant that to the contractor. The second part of the change order was a design oversight on our part. We're not perfect. We try to minimize things like this, but this one squeaked by. There was an emergency stop feature that is required by the American Mechanical Code for boilers that we did not have in our design. Contractor brought it to our attention and we verified it. This is something that was not in the original bid package, so the city did not pay for this originally. It's being added on as part of this change order. The most important or most significant part of this change order had to do with the additional work required for upsizing natural gas service. So as part of this project, we had to, the main feed to the plant was a 3-inch diameter natural gas pipe. We knew from looking at the record drawings of the plant that necked down to 1.5 inches at a certain point. And we had to get 3-inch to this building because of the boilers and some of the other equipment. We knew looking at the record drawings that it was unclear exactly where that transition took place. So we anticipated maybe that they would have to replace maybe 40 feet of natural gas and upsize that from 1.5 to 3 inch. Well, it was more like 90 feet. And the work that they had to do was close to a transformer and some electrical boxes. And it was very delicate, tedious work. It was close to a sidewalk. So we have reviewed this proposal from 1901 in detail. They itemized their cost here for labor and material. We did have $7,000 in the contract for an allowance. An allowance is used when the exact scope of work is not clear. We thought that would be enough to cover this. We knew going in, we didn't know exactly how much had to be removed. It turned out a lot more had to be removed than we thought. We took our best shot at design. We were under. Again, this is something that the city did not pay for. If we had the exact spot where we had to upsize this pipe to, the bids would have been higher and reflected these costs right here. So we have reviewed this with the contractor. We think it's fair to the contractor. We think it's fair to the city, and we're recommending approval of this change order.
Thank you. So, along with the dates, we have the $1,323 for the e-stop, and then $6,193.46 for the gas pipe. That was a lot longer than anticipated.
Correct.
All right. Questions? I mean, I think it's necessary. So it's come out of the sewer budget. Assuming sewer has plenty of money to cover something like that. Yes, in the past it has. Yeah. All right. Any concerns moving forward? The change order? Okay.
Thank you.
All right. You got off easy. Okay. What did I do now? Okay, next up, presentation from Library Board for the 2020 budget. And we have a couple people here. We have Pete Kalin and Lindsay Gant. Yeah. I don't know who was going to come up, but both of you, one of you, neither of you, whatever you want.
More or less. I guess as library board president, I'm very happy to introduce our new library director, who's been on staff for about 3 weeks, 2 weeks, closer to a month. But we're very happy to have her here. The other thing that's kind of neat is that she's a graduate of Columbus High School, was a resident of the area. Tomorrow evening from 4 to 7 p.m. there's an open house at the library annex. If anybody would have an opportunity to meet and greet, we'd be very glad to have you.
So the library board is requesting a $4,061 increase from the city of Columbus for the 2020 library board budget. That's approximately a 1.5% increase, which would bring it to a total of, our budget to a total of $284,407. Some of our revenue sources, we are seeing an increase from the county funding in 2020 by $8,798. And we also are going to be carrying forward $49,000 from leftover money from this year to next year's budget. The biggest increases that we have in our line items next year are for increases in insurance costs for eligible full-time employees. Anybody had any questions? Try to keep it short.
Thank you. Is the insurance is what's driving the request for more?
That is our biggest line item increase. We did have grant funding for in the previous year for a full-time position and will not be having that this year. So I think that's one of the revenue sources that is going down. We also have a little decrease in our revenue sources too, since we're not having any overdue fees anymore as of June.
How much was that a change to the budget from past?
Looks like 30,
The library fees. Fines, yeah.
3,100 was budgeted in 2019. And it's still budgeted at 500.
Yes, so we still would charge for replacement fees, so that's kind of our estimate. If somebody damages a book or a book is lost or an item, then we would still be collecting those fees.
Great. Questions for Lindsay? Ed, go ahead.
Yes, I guess I have a question on the insurance, how it jumps from the highest year being 15,600 to anticipated and budgeted last year at 37,000. We estimated an actual of 9,800, but now we're going to almost double that to 72,000 in just insurance. I understand a grant for lost wages, but I don't understand insurance costs.
One of the dilemmas, I didn't mean to interrupt. One of the dilemmas one has in doing a budget is how do you budget for insurance costs? We had the advantage that our previous library director didn't take health insurance. As two of our employees were eligible, but did not take insurance. I think, Caitlin, insurance costs are about, I'm going to say about $22,000 per individual, somewhere around there. Well, yeah, figuring a family plan, you can easily. So the increase has to do with employees not taking insurance, and now different employees taking insurance. The other thing that we intend to look at is we don't believe this can be sustained over a period of time. we do have some carryover that will get us through the next year or two. But we have to make some serious decisions on this, having to do with how many people are eligible for insurance costs.
Okay, so 2 people went from no insurance to now insurance? Okay. Okay.
We have one vacant position. The budget in here is paying that person's contemplated. Whether that happens, I don't know. But you're kind of stuck. Yeah.
Questions for Pete or Lindsay? Overall, a 1.5% increase isn't the worst. Seems manageable at this time, but it does sound like they have some things that are going to have to work out for going forward. If there's nothing else, we can move on to the next item.
Thank you.
Welcome, Lindsay. Glad to have you. Okay. Thanks a lot, Pete, for coming in tonight. All right, next up, number 11, review pavilion rental fee increases. Amy Jo, come on up.
Good evening. So in front of you, you have a recommendation from the Recreation Committee to raise the rental rates at the pavilion. Kind of had some discussion that went back and forth on it with the resident rates and the non-resident rates. The last time the rates were increased was in 2017. And I know it looks like there's a really large increase from resident to non-resident, but back in 2017, we did ask to raise the rates for residents to $750, but council kept it at $500. I've done some research on a lot of venues within Columbus and the outside areas, a lot of the barns that are in the Columbus and Waterloo and Watertown areas. They all charge a flat fee, and those fees are significantly more than what we charge, but they also offer the amenities of caterer of choice or the bartending service, all that additional cost. So we are recommending that we raise resident rates from $500 to $1,000 and kind of close that gap a little bit to non-residents at $1,250. And the reason we wanted to close the gap a little bit is that we had found that some people are taking advantage of finding a relative in the area that will rent for them at that lower rate of the $500. And when you have somebody who's renting 3 days, we're losing out on quite a bit of revenue. And I do think $1,000 is really a fair amount with all the amenities that HLPC has added to the pavilion, with the electrical and the flooring and the elevator. Those are nice things, and more tables and chairs. Thanks to the Tourism Commission.
All right. What's your percentage, like, guesstimate on the amount of people that rent residents versus out?
We do have more non-residents that rent. I'd say it's probably like a 80-20, 70-30 type percentage. Some years it's a 50-50. It just depends on how many rentals that come up from community members. This year was pretty close. It was closer to a 50-50 ratio. 2020, I believe, I put the numbers together for Matt when I was doing the tourism thing. All of May, June, July, August, September, and October is already booked for 2020. There's a couple of dates in August. So I think we really need to kind of act on this soon because we are going into the 2020 rates. People are starting to book into that time, so I thought this was a good time to bring it up. But most of them are non-residents, Andy.
Okay, one more question on that. Is there a difference on what you would charge if it was a wedding versus somebody wanted to put on a craft fair?
No. No, there's no difference. Weekday rentals, Monday through Thursday, are at a lesser rate than weekend rates. And holiday rates are the same rate as a weekend rate. So if they went to the craft fair on a Wednesday, I believe it's $200.
Just the reason I brought that up is I know there's something goes on the corner up here every, like, one Saturday a month.
And they have reached out to me.
They have?
Yep, they have.
And is that, is their cost, is that persuading them from trying to use it?
I
or
don't
is it
believe
just
so. I
space?
think they're just trying to put a couple of dates together for spring and fall and wearing out their options, but I don't think that they were disappointed in the prices that I'm aware of. They didn't tell me that.
Thanks.
I guess I just really hate the idea of doubling the prices for weekend rentals for residents. Having it more like $750. I don't know.
I will say that most of the, and I can provide a more of a detailed report, but the other venues in the area are charging anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000 for a weekend, or $4,500 per day. So $1,000 is still correct. A weekend, $5,000, or a weekday is $5,500. Kestrel Ridge is charging $2,000. And another benefit of the pavilion is that we have the capacity up to 800 people in the ballroom. And these other venues have capacities of 300, 250, or the max in Watertown was, excuse me, Waterloo was 500.
I understand that people usually pay much more for weddings. I just didn't want to discourage things like the big dog activities and the craft shows and some of the different things that just bring people in.
Right, I get what you're saying, but I think we really do need to close the gap. Nonprofit residents and nonprofit non-residents do get a significantly lower rate. So if 4th of July Committee or the Odd Fellows, they have their events at it's a much lower rate. But just our recommendation, and I think it would be, personally, I think it would be wise to do it. I personally don't think $1,000 for a rental from 6 a.m. until 2 a.m., 20 hours, is not that out of price range. You get to make it your own, you can decorate it, you can use a caterer of your choice, you can have a bartending service, you can provide the alcohol as a complimentary. There's so many options, and that's the beauty of it. But most of our rentals are non-residents.
Ian?
So we don't think we'd be affecting that many residential.
Right.
Yes, sorry.
No, it makes sense to increase the cost. That is extravagantly low compared to the few that I know of. I'm sure the numbers we're talking about are 100% accurate, but I do understand, like, what she brought up is maybe nonprofits having a lower rate, that's awesome, but maybe we should look at other things that are potential revenue generators for the city in general, like craft fairs and stuff, and figure out a special rate for them as well along with it. Just because like a wedding isn't going to bring a bunch of shoppers to town, but something like a craft fair or a larger event that has a larger pool of people could. So maybe we should keep a lower rate for things like that aside from just nonprofits.
I will say that one thing that I believe that happens with crafters who rent the venue, that those vendors divvy up the cost. So it's not like one person who's paying that $1,000 fee. Just my thought.
Ed?
I noticed you have half-day rates available.
Correct.
Does that include on weekends?
Yes.
So does that trump? Is it first come, first serve if I reserve a bunch of half-day weekends?
It is first come, first serve if you have your contract in with your deposit. Half-days are more popular for those that have the weddings or quinceaneras. They'll use it on Friday to set up for their event and have a dinner rehearsal, have their event on Saturday, and then Sunday they'll have like a luncheon and a gift opening, and they all pitch in McLean. It's very popular.
All right, I just need to echo the concern. Maybe the council made a mistake a few years ago in not raising the rates, but I find it very hard to swallow a 100% rate increase for residents and a 25% rate increase for non-residents on the full day rate. Maybe we revisit it. Maybe we go to $750 and then revisit it in a year and not wait as long to close the gap, but I just find 100% versus 25% very hard to swallow. I also, in reviewing your contract, how do you keep rental fees if they cancel less than 30 days, but they aren't necessary? It's not necessary that they be paid before 30 days. So you don't have to pay your fees until 30 days ahead of time.
Correct.
But I can cancel up until 30 days. If I cancel at 30 days,
Then we're giving them their deposit back.
right? But I think there's a little laxity in there. Rental fees must be paid at least 30 days before. But if you cancel within 30 days, you get your deposit back. It should be
Then they won't be paying their rent.
correct. And
Do you have a suggestion?
I'll get you one.
Okay, perfect.
I feel like this is, Ed, I think this is,
Yeah.
I mean, I hear what you're saying too, but also things are booked out to October of 2020 right now. So it's required, but they don't have to put any deposit down now?
They have to put a deposit down. Their contract is not accepted until the deposit in full is paid. What we do is we pencil them in, I'll do a tour, and then they have 10 days to decide, and that includes the weekend, if they want to book or not. And then they'll get back to me, make their deposit, and receive the contract and accept it. And if they don't want it, they scribble them out, put the next person on the list.
Jason's light's not working, so he wants to say something.
Sure.
Oh, no, that
That was
works.
working.
Yay.
Okay. Magic point. So, well, I agree with Trina. I think it should be like $750. And I know you brought up Kester Ridge and stuff, but remember Kester Ridge is trying to make money, whereas I think Pavilion should mainly have it as a service. And we should lose money on it. I think $750 would be a good idea rather than 100% increase.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Ian. I think, I hate that it's 100% increase, but I also hate that, apparently me in 2017 didn't like to increase it, but me in 2019 does.
The pavilion is a very expensive building to run, to heat it, the electrical and the water. And that's one of the reasons that we did go back and raise the rates, is because we were losing, the city was losing a lot of money. So now we're at least at that point.
Go ahead, Katie. Oh, go ahead.
I think one of the big things we have to understand with, it sounds like a huge increase. It is a 100% increase, but this isn't something that a citizen that used it last year is that likely to use it this year. It's not like it's something that I just paid for last month and now all of a sudden I'm doing it again next
More of a
month for
special occasion.
double the price. It's going to be, it's not going to seem like a double the price to the people who are booking it because they probably didn't book one last year. You don't do this every day. You know what I mean? It's not like we're doubling the cost of something that people use on a regular basis. I don't think a rate increase has that big of an impact on our residents, but it has an impact on the maintenance and viability of the.
Katie?
I just had a question. So you said the pavilion is booked out until October of 2020? Is that
Correct. With a few weekends in August. I mean, there's the off seasons of January and February, there's a couple in there, so there's spacklings here and there, but for the most part it's rented.
Now, since they are already booked, are they paying this rate still? Are they locked
They're
into that?
grandfathered
So
with this current rate. So
I
moving
mean-
forward, the new people that would,
sign up. So
Correct.
we really have to look at the fact that like next year, this is already still what they're paying. And so by saying we're jumping the gun by doubling it and whatnot, I remember us talking about this in recreation and when I remember everybody was sort of back and forth on this, like that sounds crazy, but it also sounds crazy that we have this huge building with all of these new amenities for $500 for a rental. I know it sounds like a lot and it is a big jump, but at the same time, the value of that is insane still, even at $1,000. That's my opinion. And being that it's going to take time to sort of actually implement because we've already got a lot of people signed up for the following year. I do like Ian's point though also of maybe, maybe a discount, we could talk about something
Yeah,
like that. For
absolutely.
people, for vendors and things like that that are gonna draw people into the city, I think it's a really good idea. But for the $1,000. As far as for residents, 1250 or,
Johnson.
I propose we go to 1,500 for non, if we're that low. And if you're gonna charge residents 1,000.
I actually don't have any problem with that. I mean, when I got married 14 years ago, I wish I could have found this for even $1,000. I mean, that was 14 years ago. Yeah. I mean, is everyone else good with 1,500 and 1,000, or is that, Amy Jo, what's your feeling on that?
I still think that's a fair price. The city includes all the cleaning supplies, and we're supplying all the paper products and garbage bags, tables and chairs, and both for residents and non-residents as part of the
You do
rental.
have to go back in and mop the floors, and it's not like they're there with a broom and mop.
That is
They're-
right.
they're cleaning
DPW
up
goes
their
in,
messes.
inspects on Monday, and
I
does
understand.
cleaning.
Empty the trash cans. So I'm good with 1,500, 1,000. Trina?
I guess I feel a little bit better about $1,000 and $15,000
Whoa,
than
whoa.
1,500. I guess I'm getting real fast. But I feel a little bit better about increasing both sides. And then I would like to have some sort of optional, community services, price decrease option that someone could apply for. It's not a nonprofit. I'm sure that would work.
Have a discussion with the recreation committee. Absolutely.
Jason, are you on board now, or are you still on the other side? I have enough consensus to move forward, but I'm certainly open to your opinion yet. All right, so we'll move forward to the next regular meeting, 1,500 for non-resident, 1,000 for residents.
Ed and I will talk about the verbiage. All right, thank you.
Were those the only increases then? Just those two lines? Right, I feel like there were more here.
It's 25 and 22 were the percentages on the others.
Yeah. Nonprofit, non-resident went from 225 to 275, that one at $50. That hasn't changed in several years. And then nonprofit, non-resident, Monday through Thursday stayed the same, and resident went up $50 as well for nonprofit resident.
I would encourage the nonprofits to consider visiting our tourism commission to request funding for an event that may bring people to town to offset any of these costs for a nonprofit. I mean, they have money over there that is designed to be used in these type of situations. So maybe if somebody contacts you, recommend that.
I most
If
certainly
they're
can do that.
if they're a nonprofit.
Sure.
Any other comments on this? Concerns? Okay, we'll move forward to the next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we're officially back on track on the agenda here. Number 13, review agreement for snow plowing on Summit Court. Zach's coming up.
As you see here, this is just our agreement for the snow plowing services out here. From my understanding, this has taken place the past few years with Summit Court due to its narrow street and its lengths. From my understanding from my staff, it's a pretty difficult street, and they are happy with this current process, and I am willing to give it a try for a year. So I'm just kind of asking that we get this approval moved forward so that we can be prepared for that four-letter word that's very close.
I mean, like tonight.
Right.
Well, what would happen tonight? Is that agreement still in a place from last year?
That is a very good question. As to when it expires. Yeah, it does look like it does expire as of March 31st. it doesn't, I did speak with the contractor. I don't think we would have too big of an issue getting help from him with that. I don't think this is gonna hold him up. But otherwise, it would just be something that we would address to get that street opened up, and then we would haul out as soon as we could.
Ed?
Attorney Johnson, have you reviewed this agreement? And do you have any thoughts on it?
Every year, and it works very well.
Yeah, my only question I wrote down here was ask Zach for input on how he feels, and you've answered that you want to give it a shot for a year.
Yeah, I definitely want to see the operation, see how it works, and see if it's the way I want to keep moving forward, or how can this be improved.
Yeah, I'm not concerned about that. I think it's a good approach if you take into consideration how we've been doing it, and you'll have a fresh set of eyes on it. You can determine if it's the right thing to do going forward.
Yep, definitely not one of those things I want to shake up without having any background on.
Any other questions for Zach on the Summit Court snow plowing agreement? Okay, if none, we'll move that forward to the next regular meeting. Hopefully it doesn't snow a lot more, but it sounds like you're going to be okay. All right, next up, number 14, review and request to donate baby lots in the cemetery to Prairie Ridge Hospital. You still up for this one?
That's me too.
All right.
So the Hillside Cemetery Association Board would like to request the donation of 2 baby lots at the Hillside Cemetery in Section L, known as Baby Land, to be used for premature and stillborn babies from Prairie Ridge Health. Prairie Ridge Health had approached the cemetery board regarding this past summer to have some space donated so that they had somewhere to bury these premature and stillborn babies. Historically, there's not a large request for this, as in most cases the family chooses to have the remains buried on the site of a deceased family member, but there are on occasions times when the family asks the hospital for assistance during this difficult time of theirs. A baby lot is 2¼ feet by 4 feet, and they cost $300. 6 to 8 cremated fetuses can be buried on a lot, giving the hospital multiple years worth of burials. And then when DPW, we would do the opening of this site once a year for these. We would work with the hospital to do that. So there wouldn't be, we would incur the cost of the digging. It doesn't have to be dug 6 foot the same way the regular grave does. I believe it's 3 feet is what they told me. So my recommendation moving forward to donate at least 2 baby lots. I'm a little concerned without having historical data that 2 might not be enough, only because this hasn't been an option in the past, and now if it is an option, we don't know what we're going to see there. And the monument company that they're working with here has offered to donate a monument. That's just a very generic type of thing. And you'll see on the map kind of the way Babyland is set up. The monument company's idea was that, so say you did 4, you'd put that monument right between the 4 of them in the middle there to kind of cover all of them. Versus if you do 2, you're kind of, then you got to go back and ask for another donation of a monument and all that stuff. I think that would really be the biggest benefit. And this Babyland section really has not been used. I think there might be 1 burial in Babyland right now. So it's pretty open space of time, but at the same time, I'd hate to have it separated where we've got 5 or 6 years, and then all of a sudden we got to move across the Babyland for something. My opinion, but the cemetery board is asking for 2. And Mr. Johnson may be able to give a little bit of that as well.
That's what they asked for, and I support it as the liaison to the cemeteries board.
Jason?
Just from experience, it helps in the program. So
Trina?
I guess I would lean towards 4 or 6 lots. Just have them have a nice large urban area with 1 monument.
Just correct me if I'm wrong, Zach. The hospital also has the option to purchase these lots as well, but they're only asking us right now to donate 2.
The cemetery board is asking for the 2, correct? The hospital just approached in general regarding this. And the cemetery was 2, but you were correct. They would always have that option to purchase.
I'm not saying that's what I
No,
want.
yeah,
I
no,
just,
yep, it's a good
I
question.
want to just to make sure that, you know, these are, I mean, anybody can purchase a lot there, right?
Correct.
And it would just be this, whatever is there a certain different fee for a baby lot versus a regular lot?
Yeah, a normal size lot, I believe, is quite a bit. I don't know the prices off the top.
I support this. Just was asking the question.
Yep.
Ian?
And so this is going to be a service that the hospital is going to be providing then? In the future, it's going to be through the hospital?
Correct. So the hospital will hold on to remains until the time of burial, and we'll open up for it. It's a private burial. It's not something that the families are invited to. So we would open it up. The hospital would come in, do their part, and then we come in to close up.
I mean, kind of like Andy alluded to it a little bit, like it's a service the hospital is providing. The hospital has far deeper pocket than the cemetery does. I don't see why if they want 2 lots, they can't purchase 2 lots from the cemetery. It just makes more sense for this. I'm all for the service, I understand, and I don't want to sound like I'm against this at all, but should we have it coming out of an organization that doesn't have any money, or the organization that's setting it up? Why can't they, if it's their program and they're going to be the ones doing it and running it, why can't they just purchase the lots?
Yeah, you bring up a good point.
Yeah, the question in front of us is, do we want to accept, or do we want to accept the recommendation from Hillside Cemetery Board for the 2 lots? So that's what we'll need to decide tonight. And anything else, like what Ian is saying, I mean, if I did allude to it, you know, again, it's anybody can buy these lots, but we're talking about a multi-million-dollar company versus, the cemetery board of the city. I'm like I said, I'm fine with these 2 donations, but anything in future should probably be considered as we learn more about this process and how it's used and how often.
Yeah.
I'm okay with the 2 lots. I taking Ian's point in there. I also just want to make sure, if the hospital is choosing to run this program, we obviously don't know a lot about that, but just making sure that thereafter, if lots being purchased, my hope is that it's not being passed on to, if it's not us donating the land, I hope it's not being passed on to the grieving.
Trina, go ahead.
Yeah, Ian's suggestion, I probably would want to go down to 2 lots, since they could afford it, they could make the choice to add an additional area.
So I have consensus to move this forward, it sounds like, with the 2 lots. Go ahead.
The only thing is, like, I understand that the hospital approached the cemetery and things. Was there ever any talk about them simply purchasing the lots, or was it just offered up that you can have these lots? Like, is the hospital unwilling to do this on their own right?
I don't know that for sure. I know this discussion started even before I was on board, I believe. I don't know if Mr. Johnson has any input on that or not, but I really don't know. I have an answer for you on that, if that discussion ever took place, or if it was more of a cemetery board saying, we'll kind of offer to help him.
Again, this is a recommendation from that board, so I'm sure we could, if interested parties wanted to go back and look, they could probably find the minutes from those meetings on the city website, and we can figure that out. But with the question in front of us, I'm ready to move forward, and yeah, that's all I got. All right, anything else on that, guys? Good. Okay. Hey, Zach, looks like you're up again.
This one, I actually, if it's okay with the council, I would like to table until next. There is some information that I did fail to get into the packet that I didn't want to bring stuff to plop in front of you and ask you to review in a very short manner regarding different options for fee structures and things we could do moving forward. I do apologize for that. If there is anything that you have questions on tonight from what you see, I'm surely happy to discuss it. Otherwise, I would prefer to table this until the 19th.
Thoughts, council? You okay with that? Does that include number 16? Because I don't see anything in the packet for 16 either. So 15 and 16?
Correct. Yep. That.
Okay. So we're going to table review resolution 2119 and yes. What? Oh, there it is. Sorry. Okay, so let's take one step back. Number 15, if I want to table that, do I need a motion or do I just, okay. So I propose that we table number 15. Any objections to that? Again, I propose that we discuss and consider number 16, review ordinance 751-19, ordinance amending the city ordinance section 86-229 sub B to include reference to fee resolution as adopted by council. As Paul just explained, we would not need to amend the ordinance, we would just need to have a resolution. Other than this one time, in the future, we're not sure. Gotcha. 286-229B. Oh yeah, the ordinance says 86-226B. So, no issues with discussing it with the wrong number there? Okay. Okay, thanks, good catch, Steve. All right, thank you. Questions, comments, about this item? Yeah, I think it'd be a lot easier for. Okay. I think we're working on that. Yeah.
Slowly but surely.
Yeah. Okay, Zach, so you're, I think you're good to go, right? Or do you have another one?
Nope, I think that's all I have.
All right. 15 will be tabled to the next committee of the whole. 16, we are moving forward with, we'll update the actual description of the agenda item to 86-226B for the regular meeting on the 19th, I think it is. And then next up, number 17, review assessment error as palpable error under state statute 74.33, subject to refunded or rescinded taxes and procedure for refunding property tax under state statute 70.43 and 74.41 for parcel 11-211 and is that another parcel? 1520.07 or is that all one? Okay, thank you. 112111520.07. Who is here to talk about that? Nobody? Paul? Okay.
Hey, look at that. There is a situation that has come up with a property in the city. It's a duplex property, and in 2018, one half of the duplex was assessed for both halves, and the other half was assessed not at all, basically. So it's now been discovered. The person who was assessed twice has said that excuse me, I'd like to get reimbursed for the double payment that I made. The person who has not been assessed yet hasn't been through the process of paying the omitted tax, is what that's called. So the city should reimburse the person who paid twice under the palpable error rule that's in the property tax statutes. And what will happen is next year, the party who didn't pay at all will have the opportunity to go to the Board of Review and object if they wish. And if they don't object, then, well, if they don't object, or if the objection is denied, then they will actually pay their 2018 tax next year in addition to paying their 2019 tax next year as well. And then that will all get sorted out between the various jurisdictions by means other than what I do.
Okay.
So that's the process.
This is the second one in recent memory that Associated Appraisal Consultants has erred on. Does that sound right? Anybody remember that? Okay. Do they have any responsibility financially for these errors?
For these years, no, because there won't be any loss to the, well, if the process actually goes through as stated, there won't be any loss to the city, because this is just taking from one pot and putting it into another, basically.
Then you're unfairly, well, not unfairly, you're throwing two tax bills on 1 year for a resident, whether or not that was, they didn't come to the Board of Review last year, I'm assuming, and complained that their taxes were too low. And on the other hand, I'm assuming the other person didn't go to the Board of Review last year saying my taxes are too high. And in that case, last time, we denied that because they didn't do that, didn't we? The Tuttle?
Oh, that's because they're past the time. Right.
Okay, but they're still in, this one is still in the time. Okay.
There's a 2-year window for I did not mention that, but there's a 2-year window for the omitted taxes rule. Palpable error, I'm not sure what that window is, but you're still within it.
Katie?
That's kind of what I was going to say, but yeah, just having no responsibility. Now, here, I lost my train of thought. So, is there anything that we can do for that person that needs to pay, or potentially needs to pay 2 taxes 1 year? Is there any kind of special circumstances that we can provide them?
Preferably not.
Okay. And then,
just because it will, I mean, if you're looking about a payment plan or something like that, that will screw up the tax process.
Sure. And then in addition to that, what about, I think about how when you pay your tax bill at the end of the year, how a certain percentage of that goes to like the school district, a certain percentage of that goes to, so how does that all work into?
That will all cycle through and everybody will get their share. How? That's above my pay grade. But the payment in full will be made and then it will be all split out to where it's supposed to go.
I didn't know there was a pink. Oh.
Several, by the way.
All right. What's the council's will here?
I'm fine with moving it forward, but I think I have some questions as to the way this is written, but I have no problem with the process, what we're doing.
Trina?
As a person that was not charged but notified yet of the lack of taxes, do they have an official
We think so, but are not completely certain. Is that fair?
Like a letter was mailed, but
we believe so, but are not completely certain.
Thank you.
At the bottom of this, there's an apology and sorry for inconvenience, and I offer my assistance in any way necessary to move forward with this matter. Exactly what are they offering with that? I'm just curious.
My guess is that they're not offering to do much except to actually follow the procedure that they need to follow now, which is notify the owner who hasn't been taxed yet and basically make sure that this gets on, that the non-paying owner from 2018 has their day before the board review, excuse me, if they so choose it. So, I mean, they have to make sure that the notice goes out next year so that this doesn't fall through the cracks.
So they're saying that they're gonna follow up with that?
That's going to be between the city and the assessor, somewhere along the lines. The assessor has to start the process.
Sure.
And just for a point of clarification, the person that wasn't taxed was actually taxed for land value, but not improvements.
That's correct.
So they didn't get a no tax bill. They got a tax bill, but it was significantly lower than it should have been.
That is correct.
Okay, just want to make sure. Ian?
Yeah, so I mean, they definitely knew there was something up, and I mean, if anytime you pay like $200 in taxes, you know that it's a mistake, and if you don't come forward and say, I only paid $200 in taxes, this is something bad, you know it's going to catch up with you eventually. So, like, I mean, I'm not overly sympathetic to the person who didn't pay their taxes because they know better. Like, it's just one of those things. So I'm more than comfortable bringing it forward. My other question is, how long are we committed to Associated Appraisal Consultants? That would be, I mean, if this is not the first time, and as a,
It's like a 5-year or 4 or 5-year contract, and it's been since I was on council, so 2016 could be up against it in the next year or two.
as a realtor in the area, I know our appraisals on the majority of the homes that have not sold during the last couple of years are extravagantly incorrect. And if they're making errors like this as well, then we really need to start thinking about it in appraisal.
And also, we can always have staff look at the contract and see if what the options are to opt out. I mean, it might be I don't remember this one, but it could be a dual agreement where we can opt out if both parties agree. Or Paul, maybe you can find that out for us and just just discuss that further. That's a good point. This is the second error this year that's affected our citizens and our bottom line here. I mean, the last one. So, oh no, it didn't. We didn't. It was outside the time. But yeah, I mean, point. Too many errors in 1 year. Something definitely worth looking at. So.
The last one, if I recall correctly, was calculated 2 years in a row as well. They just didn't catch the threshold. The last one that came to council, the same woman had the same thing previously, but she didn't realize it had happened 2 years in a row.
Maybe we did refund once, but not.
Correct, because it was outside,
Okay.
the
Yes.
second one was outside of the time frame.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, Ed, did you want to discuss your comments on how it was written, or did you want to? Okay. Maria, it's good. Okay. We'll move that forward to the next regular meeting then. Next up, number 18, update on TIF 5, Matt Schreiber.
Came in, we were slightly over that 12% rule for TIF 5, and that meant we had to amend the boundary and remove a parcel. Based on his recommendation, we removed parcel number 108704, which is the first parcel, one of the bank parcels, and we still obviously met the statutory requirement. Everything has been submitted to DOR. This is just a courtesy to inform council of what we had to do to get the TIF approved by DOR and meet the state statute. As I said, this was recommended by Greg. Actually, I talked about it with Kim, and we actually thought the other parcel on the bank would be the one to remove, but it was, either way, that was it's what we had to do to make sure we could get it approved. So I just wanted everybody to know so they're not surprised. Any questions for me on this?
I'm taking over for Andy temporarily, and does anybody have any questions? No action appears to be required, so thank you. Ready for the next item?
Sure. Next item is an easement request from We Energies for parcels 8A and 94. So it's the alley that kind of leads behind some of the buildings, the cage and those buildings on that block. And then the other is for the city-owned parking lot behind what used to be Fireman's, going all the way up to essentially Yum Yum, that parking lot back there. They're going to be working on some gas mains, and they've requested an easement. The mayor requested that we put them on the DT. They come to the development team meeting, so We Energies is coming on Friday to speak with us. I've already put it out to development team members and gotten comments back to We Energies, and they're starting to address those. And I guess really that's all I had, that they'll be essentially reviewed at the development team meeting, and any concerns will be issued with them or addressed by them. And this was what Mayor Tome asked how the process would be handled. So I haven't had as many comments as others, so Zach's here and Paul's here. I know Paul had a few comments, but as I said, they've been addressed to date. So any questions for me on this?
Yeah, question. Looking over Paul's comments and recommendations, concerns, I'm wondering if we can get rid of the phrases adjacent lands and in close proximity to. Can we get rid of them and have them actually just have a hard defined easement area, so we wouldn't have to worry about the extra spots on the unknowns?
The close proximity reference that I made found in paragraph 3 of those easements, they've corrected fairly well in that they put a 3-foot distance in there, which I believe they're telling us is what's required by code. So that defines close proximity a lot better than it is right now. The adjacent lands bothers me a little bit, because normally when you have an easement, you make it big enough so that you can stay in your easement when you're doing your work. And this basically gives them permission to go wherever they want to. It's a parking lot. I don't know if that's a problem or not, but that's what the issue is. So I think we'll talk about that on Friday and then see what happens after that.
Other questions for Matt?
And ultimately, this would be approved by council on the 19th. So, I mean, you'd still have one final say, We Energies does. And of course, if We Energies doesn't listen to DT, this probably wouldn't be put on the agenda on the 19th. So.
Gotcha.
They've cleaned up or made the improvements to at least get it so that they're fairly close. Trina's issues still need to be discussed at least, and then we can bring it to the full council on the 19th if they're close.
Okay. Any more questions or concerned on that? So I apologize, I had to step out. What was the final, did we have anything on the TIF 5? I missed that part. It was just an update. Okay, I read the update, so, okay. Thanks. Anything else for Matt? Okay, thank you. Number 20, review quote for new postage machine for City Hall. Who wants to come and tell us about this modern marvel of stamping your postage?
Yep. Yeah, actually, it's kind of Pat and I. As our cover memo states, the machine we have right now is 18 years old. and the service, Postal Source, isn't going to be supporting it after December 31st. They did quote a machine which was about $4,000 and about over $900 a year in other fees on top of that. We were contacted by Pitney Bowes and received a very favorable quote for a machine for about $2,900. We did have a conference call with the rep from Pitney Bowes. She was able to answer a lot of the questions that we had. We saw a lot of efficiencies. One of those being that right now to send out a certified letter, we spend between $6 to $7 per letter. This has the electronic service, so it's $1.20. So right there, you've got a fairly decent savings. And we do run into, towards the end of the year, a lot of our letters going out for like delinquent charges that are going on a tax bill. All are sent by certified mail so that we can make sure people are getting the notices. So it would be a savings there. The one kind of drawback to what we have tonight is that the original bid was from August. And the representative that we're working with is going to be providing us an updated quote because that one's expired. She said she didn't anticipate a whole lot of changes because it's a state contract that she's quoting us under, but we haven't seen that updated proposal yet from her. We'll be bringing that to you on the 19th if this is acceptable.
Yeah, I would say as long as the updated quote isn't largely different, which it sounds like it won't be, that's what I would be comfortable moving forward so that we can get it approved on the 19th so we have a postal service at the end of the year when the existing one doesn't work.
Any other questions? Ed?
On the Pitney Bowes quote, what's the monthly total of $75.56 for?
That's for the meter rental and because we can't own the meter because it's considered currency by USPS.
Okay. So Postal Source's meter rental would be $37 a month, and Pitney Bowes meter rental would be $75 a month.
It's $51.48, and then I think the other piece is the subscription for the e-returns, if I remember right from my notes. And Pat, if you can help me with that. Okay.
Where's 51.48? Okay,
So we would be saving by going with the 7556. It wasn't a significant. I think it was. Help me, Pat. I think we weighed the fact that the actual cost of the machine is significantly less, and the fact that we don't have to buy into a maintenance contract with Pitney Bowes the first year. We don't have to buy into a maintenance contract with them even the second year. That's totally at the city's discretion. The reason why we don't have to buy the first year is because they have enough belief and faith in their machine that they don't think that there would be any need for maintenance, and if there is, they're going to stand behind their machine and take care of it.
Right. All I'm saying is you put in a monthly, it's hard to figure out the apples to apples here. There's a meter rental at $37 per month with Postal Source, and then you have to dig and find how much the monthly rental would be with Pitney Bowes, and apparently it's at least $126 a month between the $75.56 plus the $51.48.
No, the $75.56 includes the $51.48.
Okay, very good. So it's $75.56 versus $37. So it would be helpful if those were lined up together, but I understand.
I think the big thing is it's still less expensive overall between the monthly and the annual combined because the Pitney Bowes is only $356.80 annually plus the $75 a month. The other one is $912 annually plus $37 a month.
What I would suggest is if this has consensus to move forward, Pat and I will put this together in a more line by line.
I'm fine with moving it forward with Pitney Bowes. I'm just saying that the explanatory material is very clear. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Ed. I mean, it's a good point. Sometimes it is hard to distinguish the differences when we're referring to these things. Not just this, but other things. It happens. I think the important thing to know is they need a new one, whether it's Pitney Bowes or the other one. This one is what's in front of us, and it seems on its face to be a good situation.
Correct. I would have fewer questions, and these meetings would go quicker if things were presented apples and apples.
Yep. Point taken. Thank you, Ed. All right, so we'll move that one forward. Staff will provide a better apples to apples look at costs annually and monthly, and we'll go from there. Take a vote. Okay. Next up, number 21, review quotes for interim administrator services. Kaylin, come on up. There was an addition to our packet with the PAA didn't have in the packet their hourly costs, but Kaylin has provided that for us for review.
Bring you that page. That's why I passed that out tonight to everyone. We'd gotten it in an earlier packet, but I apologize for not getting that in there.
That's okay. No,
Little bit of update. We have our first meeting with PAA this week on Friday, and David Berner from PAA will be meeting with us along with Kevin. One of the suggestions that I have is if you were to choose PAA, the continuity would definitely be there. Their price is $75 an hour, and they're the lowest for the round trip mileage at the $23 an hour. So between all three of them, that's just an opinion I have with the continuity. I think David Berner, serving in that capacity and also being the lead on the project, and being kind of boots on the ground here, we can use our resources that we have here between the staff to help save as much as we can with some of their costs as well. So.
Ian, go ahead.
100% agree with you on that. I think it just makes most sense with all the other things we were talking about we may or may not need in the process and things of that nature. It's logical to have PAA and to work with us as an interim vehicle. I mean, just for continuity's sake, we're going to have a hard time with continuity in many ways.
I am also going to find out what his availability is on the schedule, because if it's 3 to 4 weeks out, before somebody can start, which is not what I think I'm hearing, but also in their proposal, they will spend 20 to 30 hours a week. So I also want to make sure that we are, that's the coverage that we need. Right now, I'm thinking a lot of us are thinking at least at the 30 hours a week till we get through a number of the projects that we're in the midst of. So just some kind of a agreement there as well. But I want to make sure of his availability.
Yeah, at the last meeting, I heard pretty strong consensus that we were good with PAA, both sides, but in the packet they did include all three quotes because the other two companies also included in their services their interim service quotes. So I believe GovHR was $80 an hour, and IPR Integrated is $75 plus the mileage, which is 55 cents a mile, right?
Yes.
And the other one was, and they're a little cheaper with PAA. I like the continuity of it, and I think it'll just help us overall. Good with it. Anybody have any strong opinions outside of PAA? Being none, okay, we'll move that forward.
Forward.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
PAA. Good luck. Okay. Next up, I have item number, oh, there's no item number. Next up, we need to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor to adjourn, say aye. Opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. However, we're not done. We are going to reconvene into the, gotta find my packet here, regular meeting to address items number 11 and 12. Item number 11 is going to be in closed session. We'll come out of closed session and go back on the air if necessary to, well, we probably will go back on the air and review item number 12. So with that being said, we will need a motion to go into closed session.
Go into closed session. I don't know if we need the verbiage or not.
Oh. Thank you. Yep. Next up, so item number 11, convene to closed session for state statute 19.85 sub 1 sub E, deliberating or negotiating the the purchase of public properties, the investment of public funds, or conducting other public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require closed session to consider the purchase of a building for redevelopment purposes at 103 North Ludington Street.
Move to go into closed session.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to go into closed session. Pat, if you take a roll call. Aye. Okay. We are in closed session. And again, we're going off the air for now.